very close. We got some polls out today that show how much that's always the case and continues to be the case. CNBC had a new poll out. Shows Joe Biden up by 3 points over Donald Trump among likely voters in Florida. Then there's an ABC News Washington poll that shows Trump ahead by 4. Remember, in 2016, Donald Trump won the state by just over 100,000 votes, or a bit over 1%. And the 538 polling average, to give you a sense, for Florida, has Joe Biden just up by 1.6. So, again, razor thin. Now, Republicans know how close the state can be, and they have undertaken this staggering assault on people's access to the franchise precisely for that reason. On our show, we've covered this incredible grassroots effort to restore voting rights to some of the felons in Florida who had paid their debt to society. Now, Florida used to have among the strictest felony disenfranchisement laws in the country. But two men, a Republican and a Democrat, white and black, both convicted of felonies, organized a Florida constitutional referendum, and people voted. And in that sharply divided state, look what the results were in 2018. This is a 50-50 state, right? Look at those results. 65% voted yes, 35% voted no, in favor of democracy and reintegration of the formerly incarcerated. An incredible victory. Well, the Republicans got to work on that, and the Republican legislature moved to pass a law that would stop former felons from voting until they paid their fines, even though that's nowhere in the text of what people voted for back in 2018, but it would disenfranchise those same people all over again. The Republicans in the legislature passed it, and the Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, signed it, and now perhaps as 775,000 people cannot vote unless they come up with money. That's right, they have to pay money to vote. If that sounds like a poll tax, a federal judge agreed, writing, quote, the 24th Amendment precludes Florida from conditioning voting in federal elections on payment of these fees and costs. Now, with the voter registration deadline looming on October 5th, less than 2 weeks away, the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, this grassroots group's working on this, has raised more than $20 million with a recent contribution from Michael Bloomberg to pay those fines in time to make sure every eligible voter in the state can cast a ballot this November. Joining me now are two people instrumental in this project: Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, who had his right to vote restored by Amendment 4 in 2018, and author of the forthcoming book, Let My People Vote, My Battle to Restore the Civil Rights of Returning Citizens, and John Legend, a major fundraiser from the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, who's also written and produced a few hit songs that you might have heard of. Let me start with you, Desmond, about where things stand right now. This has been such a struggle, and so many 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and federal lawsuits. How would you characterize where things stand right now in terms of formerly incarcerated folks in your state having access to the ballot?
Well, Chris, first of all, thank you for having me on again. It's great to see you. But let me start by saying this. I know you mentioned something about Bloomberg, but this thing is far beyond that. I think that I'm happy, I'm smiling, because I'm seeing something amazing. Over 44,000 people across the country have been standing up to free to vote in Florida, that believes that a person should not have to choose between putting food on their kid's plate or voting. They shouldn't have to choose between paying their rent or mortgage or voting. And so this is an amazing display of people just standing up to defend creating a more inclusive democracy. So where do we stand? I'm going to tell you where we stand. That we have 1.4 million Floridians who benefited from Amendment 4. And out of those 1.4 million, there's 774,000 who have some type of outstanding financial obligations. Let's not lose sight of the fact that still leaves 500,000 to 600,000 returning citizens who can register to vote right now today because they don't have those barriers. But We're not forgetting about American citizens, one of which who just died last week, and her dying wish was to be able to cast a ballot before she did pass away. But unfortunately, she was unable to do so. And I know that there's so many American citizens in that 774,000 that want to experience what I experienced just a few weeks ago when I voted for the first time in over 30 years. And what that experience was goes beyond partisan politics. We're letting those legislators legislate and the litigators litigate, and we're going to let the politicians do what they do to try to divide this country. But at the core of what we're doing is bringing people together from all walks of life, all political persuasions, to experience the American dream of being able to stand up in the voting booth and say that I exist, and I count.
You know, John, what Devin is speaking to there about the sort of indefatigability of this effort and this movement. I mean, you know, you organize, you get this 75%, 65-35 outcome in a divided state's amazing. Then the legislator comes back and tries to bar these people, and I've just watched as people said, okay, whatever it takes. What does it take right now? What is this fundraising movement looking to do?
Well, we're going to literally pay off some of these fees and fines and free the vote for thousands more people. And we believe this is a moral imperative to include as many people as possible in our democracy. We believe it's a moral imperative because the people of Florida, as you so eloquently said, voted 65-35. Since when does Florida vote anything 65-35? It's been a divided state for such a long time, and the requirement for that amendment to pass was a supermajority, 60%, and we exceeded that supermajority by 5 points. So the idea that the state legislature would then turn around and try to basically repeal what the people voted for is so unconscionable.